People will stop me all the time, ask me these different questions, but most people have a question like, what does it take to get rich and happy instantly with no effort? Some version of that question. And I'll usually look at them and say, do you really want to know, or are you just asking? And when I say that, you see them kind of freeze for a moment, like he may tell me and I might have to work. But I really want to tell you what I really believe it takes to be rich and happy. Now, most people think rich is just money. But I know a lot of people have a lot of money and they're broke. And I know a lot of people have a lot of money and they're very rich. That richness is a sense of fulfillment. See, a lot of people have, quote, succeeded supposedly on the outside, but they're not fulfilled. And I'm here to tell you that success without fulfillment is failure. So how do you make sure you're really fulfilled? I mean, because it seems such an elusive thing for most people. Most people, they think, okay, if I succeed, then I'll be fulfilled. And they succeed and they're still not fulfilled. Or if I have a kid, then I'll be fulfilled. And they have the child, and it's great for a while, and they're still not fulfilled. People are always looking for something more. And I would say to you that there's only two things that will give you fulfillment long term. We may talk more about this tomorrow in more depth, but we all have 6 needs that must be met. All human beings have them. We all have different goals, different desires, different ways of trying to make ourselves feel good, but we have the same needs. And the first need that everybody has is the need for certainty. We all have a need for absolute certainty because certainty is a survival mechanism. You have to have a certain amount of certainty to even function. Like right now, if you weren't certain these lamps, these lights up here were going to hold up, or the roof was going to hold on, then you probably wouldn't be listening to me a whole lot right now. Because without a base level of certainty, the floor is going to hold you up, you can't function. And how many of you have ever been in the place, by the way, where you had so much uncertainty in your life that it just freaked you out, like uncertainty about your job or your career, or about a relationship, and it made you crazy inside? How many have been in that place where you had so much uncertainty it made you not say I? So everyone needs a base level of certainty. Now, we all try to get that certainty in different ways. So we have the same need worldwide. It doesn't matter who you go to, what country, what culture, what language a person speaks, what their socioeconomic background is. Everybody needs certainty. It is a human need, not a desire, a need. It's built into the human nervous system. But we all go about getting it differently. Like some people try to get certainty by having a routine that's the same every day so then they can be certain how it's going to be. Some people try to get certainty by, surrounding themselves with people that they're smarter than, so they feel like they're always in control of the situation, or by trying to control everyone. Some people get certainty by faith. There's no certainty, so they get it by having trust that they're guided. Everyone has different ways. Some people get certainty that they can be comfortable. That's the basic level of certainty, is that you can avoid pain and you can have some pleasure. Base certainty is just that certainty you can be comfortable. Most people get that by smoking or drinking or something like that. So everyone's going to find a way to meet their need. You've already found ways to get a certain amount of certainty in your life, or you wouldn't be listening to me right now. But the question is the way you're doing it, the way you're getting the need met, is it empowering you or disempowering you, or is it kind of neutral? If you're using drugs or alcohol to get certainty you can be comfortable, it obviously has many, many negative side effects. If you're using faith, it's a different one. If you're using your sense of identity, like, boy, I'm certain, not because everything around me is perfect, but I'm certain because I've always found a way. So my identity is I find a way, and that gives me certainty. So some ways will empower you. So now here's the interesting thing, though. When you get absolutely, totally certain about something, you know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. Let's say in a relationship. You know what's going to happen, what they're going to say, when they're going to say it, how they're going to say it, what's going to occur. When you finally have this ultimate goal of certainty, this need, where you really feel like you're satiating it, you're fully meeting it, then what happens? You feel what? Bored. Right? So all of a sudden this thing you wanted so bad, this is funny because people go out and they work so hard to get what they want, then they get it and they're unhappy because now they're bored. It's like most people think the secret to life is make enough money so you'll never have to work again. And the truth of the matter is, if you spend any time with people who have achieved that, you'll find that they're miserable. And they usually start another business or do something else because that is not the secret to life. Because they get bored out of their mind and want to pull their hair out. Because everyone needs to grow and to be stimulated. So while we want certainty, when we get absolute certainty, we go nuts. And that's because God has a sense of humor and gave us a second need, the need for uncertainty, just to really screw you up a good. Right? Just to see if you were paying attention. We have a need for certainty, but we simultaneously have a need for uncertainty. We have a need for variety. We have a need for surprise. We have a need to have things that we're not expecting happening. It creates excitement for us. That's what adventure is. If you know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, it feels good for a while, then you're bored. You got to have surprises in your life. You got to have those things that make you grow. When you know what it is, it doesn't require growth. You can predict it. But when you're not sure, now you have to grow to deal with the uncertainty. And that growth is what makes us feel happy as human beings inside. Now, you can get variety by doing drugs also. Change your state. You can get variety by going to a movie. You know, why do people go to movies? Because it gives them certainty and uncertainty. They're certain they're not going to die, even if the guy in the movie does, right? And yet they have variety. They can vicariously experience all this adventure and surprise and so forth inside that film. How many of you have ever rented a video of a movie you've already seen? How many have ever done this? Say aye. Now, why rent a movie you've already seen? Answer, because you're certain it's good and you're hoping you forgot enough that there'll be some variety, right? So these two are a paradox, aren't they? They seem to be antithesis of one another, and yet, as a human being, we need to have both of them to really feel good. The third and fourth human needs that all people have are number three is the need for significance. Need for a feeling like your life is significant, it's important, it's unique in some way, it's special, that your life has some kind of purpose. So we all have the need to feel significant, unique, to feel like our life has some kind of meaning. And what's interesting is, how do you go about it? You know, you can go about it by tearing everybody else down. I'm great because you're horrible. You know, there's two ways to have the tallest building in town. One is tear down everybody else's building. Right? That's what some people do. Other is work harder and build a better building. Right? Work like crazy. When everyone else takes lunch, you go for it. So what a lot of people do is to feel significant is they tear other people down, because then they can feel important. Like if you're moving backwards, I must be moving forward. There's an illusion there. Or you can get significance through violence. Why has violence lasted so long in humanity? Because it meets most of our needs in a very negative way, but it meets it. Listen, I have no education, no background. I live in the hood. I pull out a gun, stick it to your head. Suddenly I am significant. I didn't need education. I didn't need background. I didn't need to create any rapport with you. We have rapport, all right? You're going to respond to me now. I'm significant, and I'm certain that I'm in control of the situation, and I got some variety because this is a unique situation where anything could happen. Meets three of my needs. Violence has been around in humanity's experience forever because it is a way to meet needs. A derogatory way, but it works. And since it works and doesn't require much effort, especially now with the tools of violence, where if you and I had a fight before and I had to punch it out with you, there was some consequence. But now with a high-powered rifle or something that can shoot off 100 shots in about a minute from a distance, I can be a coward and I can still feel significant. I can do whatever I want. There's no consequence to me. You can also do it in neutral ways. You can do it by, you know, dressing really uniquely, right? Like you have a unique style that makes you feel unique and significant. You could do it by skill sets. Having skill that no one else has or is very unique. You can do it by buying more toys. You have nicer cars or homes or something like that. You could do it by getting more PhDs, more degrees, more results that you know. You have that thing next to your name, so you're significant. Every one of us finds a way, right? Because we have to feel significant. Everybody needs this. The only question is how. Some people do it by saying, I am a Christian, or I am a Jew, or I'm a whatever, and I'm more unique than you. And then religions fight about who really knows the name of God and kill each other in the name of God. It's an interesting process that sometimes happens. It's happened in most major religions of the world. Because people are basically fighting over who's more significant to the Creator. Interesting thought process human beings have. Now, the interesting thing is to be significant, you can do it in neutral ways, positive ways. You can do it by having more compassion and giving more than anybody else. If you give so much, sure enough, if you know you're willing to give more and you're more honest and more real, that makes you feel unique, makes you feel special, and that doesn't have any downside, it only has upside. So you got to figure out, you're going to find a way to be unique. The question is, do you do it through cars and homes? Do you do it through achieving? Do you do it by the kind of love that you share? Do you do it by, you know, doing something with people that makes them feel like you're superior? What do you do? But you do something. You do many things to feel significant. But the problem is, to feel significant, to feel unique, you have to be different than everyone, and that, of course, violates the fourth human need, because God does have a sense of humor. And the fourth human need is the need for connection and love. So while you're busy trying to be unique, and I have so many clients, super achievers in the culture, you know, actors, actresses, business people at the top, athletes, who their whole life they wanted to be unique, and then they got this total uniqueness, and now they have no connection because they feel like everybody's trying to get something from them now. They don't really feel the love and connection they wanted, which is the fourth need. Because to be unique and different, I have to be apart from you. This happens in people's intimate relationships all the time as well. Someone says, oh my God, I really want to be at one with this person. And then they start feeling at one with a person and they love it for a while and they go, oh, wait a second. I feel like totally loved and connected, but who am I? How am I unique in this world? I'm losing my identity. And then they freak out and pull back from the relationship. Because what they're trying to do is meet two needs simultaneously. You can get connection by being sick, and then everyone will come and pay attention to you. You can do it by creating problems. If you don't give a kid attention for doing something good, they'll do something bad to feel that you really care and you love them, to get your attention. And by the way, all adults are big kids. They do the same thing. Same thing as a child does. Sometimes a little bit more dramatic, sometimes a bit more painful, but the same things that kids do. Because basically most people are still 5 years old emotionally. So we respond the same way. Most of us are not directing. We have this great facade, but inside we're this little kid. So now here you are in this situation where you want connection. What else can you do? Well, you can have connection by just loving people. You can have connection by way of being in nature, or connection to God through prayer. Or you can have connection by looking at a piece of art and feeling this sense of inspiration. You can have it through meditation. You can have it by making love, and you feel this total connection. You can have it through a pet. There's so many ways to get it. You're going to find a way. The only question is, on a scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is none and 10 is totally fulfilled, where are you? Most people find ways that really don't fulfill them totally to bring them up to a 4 or 5. So they're in no man's land. They're not really happy, but they're not unhappy enough to do anything to change it or make it better. And then if you meet these first 4, if you meet the need for certainty and uncertainty, called variety, and significance, and connection, you'll find a way to meet those. Those are called the fundamental needs. But you will not be rich, happy, fulfilled, really fulfilled, unless you meet the last 2, and very few people meet the last 2. These are the 2 that are the real secret. And that is, number 5 is you must grow. You must grow. And number 6 is you must contribute beyond yourself in a meaningful way. See, you can get certainty by controlling everybody. You can get variety by doing drugs. You can get significance by tearing other people down. You have connection by having a problem all the time that people have to fix. And so they pay attention and you feel loved by that. None of those make you a better person. The only way you're going to be fulfilled is if you pick a different set of vehicles. And those vehicles, or those ways of meeting your needs, must cause you to grow. Because no matter how much you earn, how many people think you're great, or what's wonderful in your life, if you don't feel like you're growing, you'll feel like you're dying inside. And anybody you've ever seen who has committed suicide, you thought, how could they do that? I mean, they had the world by the tail because they didn't feel like they're growing. And or, even if they were contributing, they didn't feel like their life had any meaning, that they were contributing beyond themselves. I bring this to your attention because I've seen so many people develop such great skills and still be unhappy. So if these are the 6 needs, you got to decide how you're going to play this game. And there's certain beliefs you have that make you do things a certain way, and they may not be serving you, but you keep doing it because it meets some of your needs. It's like, for example, anything a human being does, remember I said they have a reason. So if you smoke cigarettes, even though you know it's terrible, you do it because it meets some of your needs. Maybe initially you did it to be significant, or to feel connected to some friends. Or maybe you're so stressed, you're certain when you smoke, you can relax. So now we stop you from smoking, well, you're gonna go for something else because you gotta still feel that comfort, or you gotta still feel significant. So unless we understand what our brain is doing, most of us in life have no idea how to win the game of life. We don't know what the target of the game is. We don't know the goal. And so it's pretty hard to win a game when you don't know what the goal is. I'm here to tell you, having been with a couple million people from 65 countries and having heard every story you can imagine. I've dealt with people with 152 personalities who started splitting in the middle of a seminar while Diane Sawyer was actually covering a businessman sitting next to this woman, and she split in 152 personalities, been in therapy for 30 years, and integrated her in 40 minutes on the spot. And Diane and them saying it's a miracle, and saying, but it can't last. So they waited a year to do the story and followed her for a year, and she never broke down again. I've dealt with that, to people with 152 personalities, to people with like no personality who have a bigger problem, right? Okay, much bigger problem, right? I've dealt with, the kid in the South Bronx addicted to crack cocaine, and I've dealt with the top CEOs in Hollywood addicted to cocaine, I mean, I've seen it all, and there's nothing I haven't seen. I've seen people physically abused, emotionally abused. I've seen everything you can imagine to see. You don't have to be bright to see there are patterns. And all these patterns are just trying to meet these same 6 needs. And most people don't know what they're after, so it's kind of hard to get your outcome when you don't know what it is. So what I want to talk to you about for a few minutes here is those last 2 called growth and contribution. Because those are the ticket to freedom. And then we'll go through some fun skills, but I want you to think about your philosophy of life. Because while it's great to have these tools, you need both philosophy and skill to make your life work. If you've got great skill and no guiding philosophy, no guiding set of belief structures, then you are a person that has wonderful mechanics, but you're not really going to be fulfilled and you're not going to make a difference in the world. If you got this wonderful philosophy and you got no skills, no muscle, then you're going to live and be able to philosophize forever and you know it's right, but you don't do anything. It's a merger of these two, or a melding of these two, that really creates a quality life from my perception. So let's talk about the philosophy of what creates that fulfillment. I remember somebody came to me one time and said, so what does it take to be rich and happy? And I remember I looked back to him and I said, it's really simple. Be a team player. I remember the person looking at me like, what does that mean? But let me tell you, that's the secret to wealth and happiness. Become a team player. What does that mean? A team player means you've got to understand something. Human beings are really unique. Here's what's unique about us. We're driven to achieve a certain amount in our lives, whatever that may be, to meet our 6 needs. For some people to feel significant, they got to make $10 billion. For some people significant, they have to have a child and have that child grow up and be a nice person. There's no right or wrong. It's just different beliefs in our head about what has to happen, right? But here's what's interesting. Most of us don't need to have a lot happen to meet our needs. We don't. So it's different for every person. So let's say for you to meet your needs of identity, you have to do a certain amount of business. Well, once you do that much in business, you don't have any more drive. It's like, okay, that feels good, right? Or you have a certain amount of need for acknowledgement. But once you get a certain amount of acknowledgement, people tell you a million times how great you are, you always appreciate hearing it, but you don't really need it because you know. So you're grateful and it's wonderful, but it's not like desperation. You know what I'm saying here? And so certain amount of money, certain amount of respect, certain amount of accomplishment, certain amount of something, and then we kind of lose our drive because we enter our comfort zone. How many follow this? Say I. So once you're in your comfort zone, you're not driven anymore. Here's the problem. When you get in your comfort zone, you're not driven, you no longer grow. When you're not growing, you start to die inside. When you're no longer growing and dying inside, you stop contributing in a meaningful way. And as you do both of those, your whole world falls apart emotionally. See, I've seen this happen. I've got about 6 or 7 friends, probably 7 to be accurate, who are considered by most people in the world to be like the best on earth at what they do and have been for a quarter of a century. Like one guy's in the movie business, been the head of several studios, made an unbelievable number of pictures, Academy Awards. Another guy is an NBA coach, the most winningest coach of all time in NBA history. I mean, each of these guys are my friends, and they're in their mid-50s. And what all of them do when we get together and talk is we talk about life and where we're going, what we're doing. And I've watched many of them, the business ones anyway, cash out at one point in their career, where they sold their companies and made $500 million. One guy, $2.5 billion. And he thought that was going to make him happy. And I remember for the first 3 or 4 months, he was really happy. He partied, it was fun, it was great. But then all of a sudden he got more and more crazy. And then all of a sudden he started overeating and drinking. And all those things are as a symptom for the fact that you're not fulfilled. So now you're going for the cheap quickie to try and make yourself feel good because you really aren't growing, you're not contributing. And every one of them has gone back into some venture that made them have to grow, because when they had their business, they had to take on the challenges, they had to take on the effort, they had to grow, and they felt like they were contributing something meaningful. And that's when they're happiest. So having said that, if we all can get comfortable at a certain spot, then what's the secret to make sure we're always growing and contributing? And the answer is become a team player, which means this. People will do more for others they care about than they'll ever do for themselves. And that's a critical distinction to have about human beings. People will do much more for others they care about than they'll ever do for themselves. Now, for some people, that's God. For some people, that's their kids. For some people, that's their friends. But we'll all do more for something people we really care about than anyone else, than ourselves. And so if you really want to be happy, you got to grow and got to contribute. How many buy that? Say I. So if you buy that, you got to have a reason to constantly grow, because you're going to get comfortable pretty easily. The only way to do that is to have these people you care so much for that you feel compelled to constantly contribute more and to grow in order to be able to do that. Unfortunately, in my life, I figured this out at a very early age, and so it drove me to this point. It's why I'm here now. And I'm here now because I get to have this sense of I have to grow to do this, I have to contribute, and I get the joy and the fulfillment of that process. I don't have to do any of this anymore, fortunately. I can sit and do nothing for the rest of my life economically, but I couldn't sit and do nothing and be happy. So that's where we got to vest ourselves. But I have found what that is for me, which is certain people I care about, an environment of people I care about, people like yourself who really want to make their life more, no matter how great it is. But you got to find what that is, because that's what will drive you. So I want to give you a couple of assignments that if you use them will get you more connected to your team. And they're very fundamental and they're very basic, but I think if you'll do them, you'll find them to be quite useful. And the first one is really simple. If you're going to be a team player and you're going to feel that sense of connection, then what you got to be able to do is you got to be able to connect when it's not easy to connect. What I mean by that is, if you're in a position where someone, how many of you have somebody in your life from your past where maybe you were good friends at one point, or lovers, or business associates, but you're really close with this person, and then one day something happened. And when that happened, it changed your life forever in your relationship, and maybe you've never spoken to them again since that day. How many have somebody like this somewhere in the back of your life? Raise your hand. Let me see your hands. Keep your hand up, and I want you to see what percentage of the room it is. It's about 90% of the room, okay? So what I want you to do is this. I want you to develop team-building muscles, because when you have that sense of connection, you can do anything. But anybody can be loving and friendly to someone who's totally loving and friendly to you. If you're really going to get that sense of connection, that sense of real joy, the real passion, you got to be able to connect with somebody who has hurt you or been unfair to you. Now, I'm not suggesting you go start another relationship with this person. I'm not stupid. I know many of these people you don't want to start a relationship with. But I do want you to learn how to communicate with absolute caring and love and make yourself do that even though you've been hurt. Because that's how you build an ultimate muscle. How many follow this? Say aye. What I'm going to ask you to do is you are going to tomorrow or tonight after the seminar, you're going to take this person, maybe you've not talked to them in years, and you are going to call them. Now, answering machines don't count, okay? But you're going to communicate with them. And what I want you to do is three things. I want you to call them. I want you to acknowledge yourself, who you are. Don't pretend you're someone else. And answer the phone, and as you hear their voice, you'll say, hi, this is me. Remember me? I certainly remember you. Then the second step, you're going to acknowledge how the relationship ended. So you're going to say to this person, listen, I know the last time we talked was not a very pretty sight. I know that we yelled or we did this or we did that. I know that I knew I was right and you knew you were right, and it didn't end in a very attractive way. So acknowledge what happened so it's clear that you're not an idiot calling back. And then you go to the third step. You say, I'm just calling for one reason. It's been 6 months, it's been a year, it's been 10 years. I just want to call you to tell you that while that was incredibly painful and I was mad as heck, and I still don't necessarily agree or disagree with you, I do want you to know that before that happened, we had an amazing business relationship, friendship, love affair, whatever it was. And while I'm not trying to start a new one, I just want to tell you how grateful I am for that time I had with you prior to that event. Because it was a great, great time in my life. And you were an important part of my life and my team, and I want to thank you for that. And you don't have to say anything. I'm not calling to have you say anything or give me anything. I just wanted to thank you for that time. I hope you have a great life. Thanks. Bye. Click. What would this do to their brain? Better yet, what would it do to your brain to actually sincerely make this call and put aside those events and associate to the good things? Again, I'm not saying start a new relationship with them. I'm not saying that. I'm saying just call and acknowledge that there was great goodness and do it from your heart and reconnect to that feeling. How many think this would be a major stretch? Let me see your hands. Say aye. Good. So then if you can't do it, you what? You what? How many are going to do it? Raise your hand. Say aye. Here's the second call I want you to make. The second call is not painful. You'll want to make this call. Before you turn the page, let me ask you, how many of you out there have had an experience where there was somebody who you're really close to, somebody you really appreciated, really enjoyed, really loved, and you didn't have an argument, you didn't have something negative happen, you just got so busy, and they got so busy, and you're like in different places, and you didn't call for a while, and the more you didn't call, the weirder it felt not to call. And then, since you didn't call for so long, it really felt weird not to call, and now you haven't called forever, and you kind of, like the commercial says, kind of drifted away. And it wasn't because you were upset with them at all. How many of you have someone like that somewhere in your life? Raise your hand, say aye. That's your second call. What are you going to do? Call them up, acknowledge who you are, do the same thing, acknowledge what happened. Tell them the truth. Say, listen, you know, I'm calling. I'm sure you don't have any time to talk right now. We don't need to. I'm just calling to tell you one thing. And that is that I think about you a lot. That, you know, I haven't talked to you in so long that after a while, I'm telling the truth. I didn't call for a while. You didn't call. I was busy. You were busy. And then it felt weird to call. So the reason I'm calling is so it doesn't feel weird to call in the future. Right? I'm just calling to tell you I love you, and I'm so thrilled that you're part of my team. And even if we don't talk for 2 years, I always care about you. And if you ever want to talk, I'm always here. And I know you probably don't have any time, so I just want to say thanks. Have a nice night. No, that person I guarantee will stop you. I say, oh, no, I'm so glad you called. And what it'll do is it'll take a part of your life, like one thing you can finally put behind you, this thing you can put back in front of you, and reconnect with it. And I think you're going to find that it'll have a really wonderful processional effect. Like, when you drop the rock in the water, it doesn't stop there when it hits the water. It has this neat little wave effect on your life. Same thing happens when you reconnect with someone you really consider to be a friend. It has an impact on things that you normally wouldn't measure in that area. How many want to make this call also? Say aye. And here's the third assignment. The third assignment in team building is I want you to make a list of all the key team members of your life. And what I mean by that is anyone you consider to be part of your team. Team can be intimate loved ones. It can be family or friends. Team can be those people you work with who you really, really care about. But I'm talking about your close inner team of people. The people that you care about, the people who have their feelings about you as influence over you. The people that you would be driven to give to and to serve, and therefore would need to grow and contribute in some way. And what I'm going to ask you to do is I want you to write next to each person's name some unique way you're going to let them know you care about them in the next 30 to 45 days. Some unique way. Because what we all assume is that everybody knows we love them, but we don't. People don't. They forget. Or if they haven't experienced it in a certain way, they don't know. So I want you to do it a unique way. Because again, people do weird things. If they can't get that love or that connection in a good way, they do weird stuff to get your love and attention. So you don't want to wait till there's a challenge or there's a problem. And so I'm going to ask you to do it proactively. Now, for example, how many of you have kids? Let's see a show of hands. Wow. How many of you have teenage kids, as an example? Great. Another breed, aren't they? So now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to make your list, and I want you to come up with a unique way to make them feel totally loved. Now, let me tell you what's great about this. Number one, you'll increase your connection and sense of team. Number two, you'll have a blast coming up with creative things. Number three, you'll feel wonderful when you're doing it. And when all those wonderful things are happening, it'll affect your career, believe it or not. Because it'll affect the way you feel about yourself and your identity and what you're doing in your life, and it enriches everything. These little things mean everything. I'll give you an example. When I married my wife, Becky, I wanted to have 4 kids. I got 3 instantly. And all of a sudden, here in a short time, we have 4 kids. And I had kids at that time. My youngest, I think, was 4, and my oldest was 17, and I was 24 years old, right? So that makes you grow up pretty quick, right? So I found myself in a place where it's like, wow, here I had this great love affair with my wife, and I really love these kids, but all of a sudden, wham, man, they were in my life quickly, rapidly, powerfully. And I had to feel how to deal with that. And it was very difficult at first, extremely difficult, because I felt like, oh, I was getting less connection. I was less significant than the kids were and so forth. It was very difficult. But gradually what happened is I loved these kids so much that it expanded my life. It didn't mean less significance, less connection. It meant I could have them from more places and at a deeper level. And now it's one of the greatest gifts of my entire life. If you ask me, are you a successful man? I would say yes. And my number one criteria is what incredible kids I have, who they are as people, which I think they've done on their own, but I think I've certainly helped to shape some of their core value structures and belief structures, which is the only thing you can shape. You can't control behavior, but you can certainly shape a good deal of what somebody values and believes by your example and your caring. And so when this first happened, I also was 24 years old, starting my career. I was doing an average of 200 days a year on the road, right? I was building and doing everything, so I'm not even there most of the time. And so these kids are in my life, and I'm thinking, my God, how do I connect with these kids? How do they know I love them when I'm not there? And the only solution I could come up with was, okay, I got to be there, number one, and number two, I got to really be there when I'm there. You know, I had 4 fathers myself, and the one who I consider to be my real father is not my birth father. You know, he's not my father genetically, but the one I mentioned passed away was the one I was closest to, and I had the least amount of time with him. But I really had what I call magic moments with him, just moments I'd never forget as long as I live, and they helped to shape a good part of who I am and what I believe and value. And so I thought, that's what I got to do. I got to create magic moments with these kids. But I decided to do it the way I'm asking you to do it, strategically. Not like just, okay, I'll figure a way, to really put focus into it. And so I looked at each kid, because each kid has different needs to know they're loved. So as I looked at that, I was able to do it. And I thought about, I don't want to just do this with my kids. I want to do this with the whole world. So you got to decide. Are you going to blast through your life and forget what you really love? What you really, really live for? Because you're busy trying to achieve something. Or are you going to do both? Live fully and blast through everything you want to achieve too. The only way you do that is if you understand team. Inner team is the most important thing. So that's my challenge to you, is to make it the most important thing, including, by the way, the team inside of you. Because for years, I took first 7, 8 years of my career, I didn't take one day off. I worked 7 days a week. That was it, because my whole identity was, I don't stop. But I've also learned through lots of pain that if you just give to everybody else but yourself, pretty soon you're empty and you got nothing to give back. And so I learned gradually to really give myself things, give myself time, give myself little events. And I want you to do that. So I have one other assignment for you. And that is, I want you for the next 4 weeks to promise me one thing. Besides coming up with your plan to take care of your team, that you come up with a plan that gives you 1 hour a week for the next 4 weeks where you do something for you that you normally will not do for yourself. I don't know what it is. Everybody's different. Maybe it's just a walk on the beach or a walk away because you never give yourself time by yourself. Maybe it's buying yourself something you would never do because you go, oh, that's stupid. I don't need that. Do it anyway. Because I'll tell you what will happen. When you give to yourself, you'll have something to give to others. You know, the Bible says, love thy neighbor like thyself, which presupposes that you would love yourself. That's not a very popular thing because most people who pretend to love themselves really don't. They don't really love themselves. They hate themselves.